Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Payson, and I am honored to have a friend of mine and often guest on the show, Dave Krouse. Welcome back, Dave, to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure having you back on. There's been a little bit of a gap since you've been competitive, and you've had the best possible reason for a little break in your action because you just had a baby boy. And so congratulations to that. How old is he now?
He's a month and a half. This is my second boy. I have a 5-year-old Noah. He comes out here on the mats with us. He's been training Taylor, Gavin. They're getting him ready, man. He's big. He's 5. He's 70 pounds. So he's a big boy.
Oh, so he's putting Taylor through the paces.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy to hear that.
He's teching Taylor for sure.
Yeah. Well, hey, you're coming live from the shop.
Yep.
And I know you train a lot at the shop. So with the Cahills, Gavin Teasdale, Tanner, and Gavin just went out to California and qualified for USA Grappling. So we'll start there. What's it like seeing them kind of compete at the national level? How excited are you for them for that? What's it like training at the shop for your
Yeah, it's awesome. Actually, they were in today. They came back. They're pretty sore, but they were in today. Yeah, it's awesome training with them. You know what I mean? They highest level wrestling. You know, you're not going to find better training partners wrestling wise than them between Taylor, Gavin, Tanner. I mean, you're just not going to find that level of, you know what I mean, wrestling. And for someone like me, I didn't wrestle that much. So when I go with them, you know, it's taught me so much that when I go against wrestlers, it's, you know, I've kind of figured that game out. It's helped me a lot. So
Yeah, you came from an athletic background, but not a lot of wrestling. You made a splash in MMA with a really fast knockout. I happen to be cage side for it. Now I think that's been a couple years. You had a couple injuries you've taken care of. Obviously, you had another baby, so a lot of things happening. Well, you're on the show tonight to talk about Sprawl in the Burgh 247 Fighting Championships in July are doing back-to-back events. So you're taking a little foray into BJJ. What made you sign up for Sprawl in the Burgh 1 as opposed to Brawl in the Burgh 17, which is the next day?
it was just the perfect way for me to come back. You know, I don't want to call it ring rust, but just getting that, you know, the cage presence back. You know, because it's the walkouts, it's the cage, everything's the same. It's just, you know, it's just not punches, I guess, which is what I like to do. So that kind of sucks. I'd rather throw punches, but you know, it's a good way for me to edge back in. I plan on fighting in October for them. I'm ready, man. I've been training hard, and you know, it'll be a good night.
Yeah, well, you're obviously on here to talk about Sprawl in the Burgh, but you just kind of teased the October Brawl in the Burgh, which is going to be, it's already announced, it's going to be at Meadows. And so that'll be super exciting. The Meadow cards are always very exciting. This is the Monroeville Convention Center, July. And I mean, I know Ryan Middleton, the owner of 247, has been wanting to do a featured grappling in the cage because it's the same environment, it's the same setup. So let's talk about it. This is an 8-minute submission only, no breaks, 8 full minutes with submissions only, unless a submission doesn't happen, then the referee makes the decision. So tell me about what it feels like to be jumping into where you're going to be pushed to really show off your grappling and jiu-jitsu skills. Obviously, you knocked somebody out in 12 seconds or whatever it was. So this is going to kind of be pushing you a little bit. What do you think about going into an environment where it's grappling only?
Yeah. I mean, see, I like to stand and bang. I like throwing punches. I would have to say that's what I favor. But you know, a lot of people don't know about my jiu-jitsu. I would say that's why I'm excited to do this. If you look at smooth, you know, I've cleared brackets. I submit everybody. If I'm not submitting them, I'm getting them 10-0. You know, my first fight, I didn't get to really show that. You know, the nerves. You know, with your debut, been the nerves, the lights, the crowds. You don't get to show yourself. You know, you're too worried. It's just adrenaline dump, and you know, it's kind of, I hate watching that fight, but you know, you learn. And then the second fight I went in there, I was just so comfortable. So I don't think I've really got to show that my jiu-jitsu. So I'm excited to get in there and, you know, show people that, you know, this guy wants to wrestle, we'll wrestle. You know what I mean? He wants to go, we can do whatever. You know, I'm pretty well versed in the jiu-jitsu realm. So I'm excited to show that. I think people think I just throw punches, but you know, we'll see.
Sure. And you talked a little bit about doing jiu-jitsu tournaments. That is one exciting thing in the jiu-jitsu world. that MMA may not be familiar with. It's really hard to kind of find a record of that. Tapology does a great job with all official official MMA matches, so it's a lot easier to kind of find that out. So what experience level do you have? Have you done a couple tournaments? And what's it like competing multiple events on the same day? That's a thing wrestling and jiu-jitsu has in common in tournaments.
Yeah, honestly, I favor that a little bit because I helps me warm up. You're getting the exhaustion out, trying to figure out how to warm up properly without overdoing it. I think a lot of people struggle to find their wave there. I've done a bunch, man. When we started, me, Tay, and Tanner, we just every other weekend we were going to jiu-jitsu tournaments. Just trying to, especially for me, with not having a super heavy grappling background, it helped me develop, get comfortable, and I kind of found a good groove in it. So especially training with them, I've really, because wrestlers are the up and coming. I mean, there's no denying that wrestlers are the new breed of the sport. So you either conform to that or you get steamed over. So I have the best training partners in the state on the East Coast as far as wrestling. So that I've learned how to adapt to wrestlers, that style. So I couldn't be any happier.
Well, that segues us perfectly into your opponent. What do you know about him? Does he come from like a pure wrestling background with BJJ thrown on? I think it's a great opportunity. I know that one of the things that Sprawl in Burgh is going to do, obviously you're more of a puncher learning the jiu-jitsu game, which is fantastic. Got a lot of experience, trained with great wrestlers. But I think what Ryan Middleton and Jim Mooney and Hunter, what they want, and I think it's going to happen, is some guys, some athletes, because there's going to be a lot of girls on this card too, some athletes that don't really think about MMA. They get into an MMA cage for BJJ. They get comfortable, like you said, and then they might think, hey, well, maybe I can do some MMA. So I think there'll be some bleed over. But for you, what do you know about your opponent? What made you say yes to him? And what can we expect for the upcoming fight?
Yeah, just tailing off of what you said about this being great. I think this is great for debuts. Even myself, it was only my third, it'll be my third fight. I think it's great. It'll show them like, hey, you can go in there, see if you like the environment without getting, too much damage. So I think what they're doing is great. I think, I would recommend a lot of people starting there before they jump in the cage. But I don't know much about him. He wrestled. I know he was Taylor's weight in college. I know if you're Taylor's weight in college and you're 240 pounds now, that's not a great thing. But hats off to me. I give him respect. He's a Division I wrestler, so I'm not gonna take him lightly by any means. But I want to go in there. I want to wrestle him. I feel like I could go in there and take his legs pretty easily. But I want to go in there and I want to tie up with him and see what he's built like, and prove my wrestling. So,
well, I mean that makes sense for your game plan, and also we've seen that wrestling is absolutely important. But since this is a submission only, for people that don't know, there's a lot of BJJ tournaments. Naga's a really well-known one, and they're great. A lot of them have a very wrestling style scoring system. Certain moves are certain points, takedowns are certain points, but also knee on belly or passing to this side or that side, things like that. And so for a wrestler brain, they get into a Naga or any type of point, and they just go through the points. And a lot of times that's where wrestlers can excel. Whereas obviously you say you want to show you're wrestling against his, but jiu-jitsu wise, way back to what jiu-jitsu is, it's not about running up points. It's about getting a finish. And so what's cool about a submission only is there's no points involved, of course, unless it goes to like a draw, but which there won't be draws. It'll be decided by the ref, but you'll have the opportunity to be throwing submissions. And that's one thing that all wrestlers can improve upon, is submission defense, because that doesn't exist in wrestling. So you mentioned your size and your weight. You look like you're filled out very well. I think you fought it. Did you ever make it to 205, or were you fighting?
Yeah, I fought.
Okay.
My last fight was 205. I'm around 240 right now, but it's on purpose because he wanted the match at 240. So I'm just holding 240, and then once this grappling match is over, I'll start heading back down. But
for that October fight,
then I'll start heading back down. But I'm around 240 right now. So
because you would be like the perfect example of like a 215, 220 weight catch, which there isn't in MMA. It's 206.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah, I know. We've talked about that before, because I saw you fight at heavyweight, and then obviously your strength to weight ratio transfers really well at 205. I think
that's where I should be. Yeah,
that makes the most sense. But very cool. Not not giving, because we got to be careful, not giving any technical things away, do you feel like you have a lot of submissions from your top game or a lot of submissions from your bottom game, or equally? Because one thing with jiu-jitsu without strikes and a submission only is it gives a wide range of opportunity for either somebody to fight off their back and throw up submissions, or somebody to be a top submission guy.
So I would have to answer that, you know, as I've continued into jiu-jitsu, it's evolved. When I first started, they used to call it, Tay would call me the real Americana, because every single match I go in and go for Americana every match. But, you know, as I've evolved, you know, I've actually found out that I'm better off my back and going for legs. And, you know, that's actually where I do my best work. That's why I said with him, you know, he's a big wrestler. He wants heavy pressure on me. I could really hurt him with that, but I want to go in there and I want to wrestle him. But yeah, I would say over time I've developed into more off my back, but initially it was, you know, smash, smash, smash on top until I could get a head and arm choke. Something other similar.
Yeah, well, I love I'm always a big fan of whatever people do in MMA, but I really, really am a big fan of the side triangle choke of the arm, or the arm triangle choke, because it's a very dominant position to be in. There are some great guillotines and leg triangles off the back. We've seen that, but sometimes, as great as they are, if they aren't finishes, then in MMA at least, you can end up in a bad spot. And so
you end up in a bad spot. Yeah.
Right. And so I really love somebody, let's say they're in mount or side control, start setting up the side triangle choke and then dismounting if they're in mount. Or sometimes you can even kind of bait an arm to get to where you need and work from there. We've even seen an Oven St. Preux. I now refer to the Von Flue as the Von Preux, but in his fourth Von Preux in the UFC, he actually took the guy's arm and put it around his head to create the Von Preux. And it does show something and that at that point, that was pretty much like a submission top game. But it shows that when you have that smash, smash, smash pressure, you can sometimes create openings that weren't really there. That opponent did not actually hold on to the neck of St. Preux. He didn't actually give him the Von Preux, but he put it there anyhow. So it kind of shows what creativity can happen in jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's all opponent dependent. You know, it's like this guy's a big heavy wrestler. He wants to come out. He wants to shoot a shot, get a leg, heavy pressure. You know, probably into a head and arm choke, some big guy stuff. And, you know, that could be good for him, or that could be really bad. You know what I mean? If you know how to deal with that pressure and get under his legs and get him off balance and tripping over himself, that could be really bad. And yeah, so it's opponent based and it's chess, and that's why it's the best game in the world.
Well, it's a great matchup, I think, for the fans, because you and the Cahills and Gavin all have a big the shop has a big fan following, but it's also cool to see somebody who's a Division I wrestler like the Cahills coming in and given an opportunity to see what he can do. That's what's going to be so great. I think the technical aspect of Sprawl in the Burgh, they're talking about some big black belt matchup, you know, that we've already had a ton of announced matches on Sprawl in the Burgh. It's probably going to be a lot more matches than at an MMA event. So it's going to give people, this is where I start talking about people needing to buy tickets from you or for anybody at the shop. And if they don't make the trip out and go pay-per-view, which is possible for where you guys live, just want to remind everybody, 247fighting.com or the 247 Live app on their phone. But either way, they need to make sure that they give you credit when they do the pay-per-view. So do you have any sponsors or people you want to thank coming into this match?
Pro Body Nutrition. They're out of Johnstown. It's a supplement company. More Gains Fitness. They have several locations, and then Beagley Tree Service. But all those guys will be on the shorts that night.
That's great. Oh,
the shop. The shop.
And the shop. Yes.
Can't forget about the shop. Taylor's over there laughing. He's getting ready for his. Taylor has a big fight coming up June 24th. He's pro. He's going to Niagara Falls. He's going to go over there and take this dude's neck. So I want to shout that out too. That's
going to be incredible. Yeah. I'm going to text Taylor, see if Taylor can jump on separate. We'll do a separate interview. Don't bring him on now.
He'll jump on. I won't
bring him on this one. We'll do a separate one for him just so that they're separate on YouTube. But anyhow, we'll keep him on deck as they do in baseball. So
I'll keep him on deck. He'll be ready.
There we go. But really, we cannot talk enough about the shop. I've done a lot of interviews, you know, with that background. If people want to go back Gavin Teasdale, obviously the Cahills, you and others have all jumped on from the shop. I mean, it's a great training center. I also love the fact, and this is always important, that you've got local sponsors, tree services, local bodybuilding people, local nutrition services, because for an amateur or early pro MMA jiu-jitsu guy or gal, you need those sponsorships to create the opportunities that you have. So really appreciate you coming on, Dave Krouse. It's always an honor. Can't wait to see what happens. Sprawl in the Burgh, July 14th at the Monroeville Convention Center. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it, Luke. Thanks for having me on, man. I'll see you there.
You got it.